Hey guys, welcome back to Happy New Year. Yeah, new year, new decade, new glasses. Now you're probably asking yourself, oh my god, Kareems, are you bringing in this new decade with a new look? No. See, I'm wearing these darkened spectacles over here because if I don't, well, you see, I use natural lighting, so the second I take these off, the sun decides to blast me right in the retinas. So I'm just going to keep these on for my personal safety. Now, I can't see anything, but I digress. I want to start off this new year by taking a look at the Razer Hammerheads True Wireless. Now, these guys are pretty interesting, to say the least. So, elephant in the room, they look like AirPods. You know, they got the large stem thing, and the concha of the earbud is very AirPod-like, but there are a few key differences. For one, the AirPods case is much smaller and much wider. When it comes to the actual buds, the Hammerheads have a much larger housing for the drivers, as well as a much shorter stem. And one cosmetic but not functional change is the change to what the stem does on each bud. It's like a touch sensor, so you can, double tap, etc. for skipping and playing tracks. But in my opinion, what the biggest difference is the price. That's right. By default, the Razers come in at $100. That is $60 cheaper than the AirPods with the wireless charging case. Now, the AirPods Pro, the original AirPods, I can understand, people don't like having something in their ear and they feel a little claustrophobic. I don't feel that way. I feel quite the opposite, actually. And I'll explain why later in the video. But for now, there is no seal per se. They just kind of sit flush with your ear. Now, the actual head, as I mentioned, is much bigger than the AirPods, so it's a little bulkier, and if you already had some trouble fitting AirPods into your ears, this might be better or worse, depending on what your initial situation was. Either way, when you think fit and design, think bulky, shorter AirPods. Build on these. It's pretty nice. I will say that the hinge is a little bit looser than I'd like, and believe me, as a guy with a sordid history with earbud lids, I didn't appreciate this flimsiness, but otherwise, it makes an excellent use of the space with the battery. It's nice and dense, and yeah, it's good. It's a good build. B+. I usually don't cover specs on my channel. I always feel like they don't convey the actual user experience at the end of the day. Now, with that being said though, there are two specs that Razer advertised with these buds that caught my attention and made me want to review them. The first spec was that they had custom tuned 13mm drivers, which, when a company is like parading around their driver specs, that they're focusing on the sound quality. And second was this lossless Bluetooth connection. Now, that second one is interesting to me because you'll see most earbuds don't overtly advertise it. They mostly say, oh yeah, we have X, Y, and Z technology for lossless audio. Hell, some of them just don't even have lossless audio. For the most part, this has always been the biggest drawback of the wireless earbuds movement is compared to a wire, there's always going to be lag. Now, that's gotten much better across the board, but it did catch my attention that Razer specifically drew attention to it on their buds. But we'll dive into both of those specs later in the review, so stay tuned. Keep watching. So let's start off with these 13mm driver claims, right? So 13mm is a pretty big driver on an earbud. It's why the concha of the Razer buds is so much bigger than the AirPods. I forget the exact frequency response for all my audiophiles out there, but essentially they're supposed to have a much lower frequency response than normal earbuds for a much deeper, richer bass. And they do. Sound quality on these is really, really good. Much better than I thought they'd be, and much better than I think any other $100 pair of earbuds. Although I haven't actually gotten around to testing the entirety of that space, so take that with a grain of salt. What I can say about these is that compared to, other buds that I tried that are more expensive, the Anker Soundcore Liberty 2 Pros, the Samsung Galaxy buds, etc., I have noticed that these are exceptional. These have sound genuinely above its weight in terms of price and value. The bids sound nice and clean and powerful, and the mids and highs, however, above average. It's a shame though, because Razer made a really good sounding earbud, but they focus so much on the bass, and it's great, that it just feels a little off balance. Now, the bass isn't overpowering and muddy and disgusting like you'd see on like you'd see on a pair of old Beats. What they do sound like is essentially there's just an emphasis on the bass without it being overpowering. And that's, hey, if you love bass, if your sound preference is bass heavy, then you're gonna love these, honestly. Like these have nice deep bass. I know I've said that a lot, but seriously, great for like bass heavy songs. Genuinely good soundstage, decent imaging for their price. So real quick, because while I did say it was a big feature that I was looking forward to, it's more of a thing you can just assess pretty quickly when you're watching, you know, a video. The lossless audio claim. So in a typical, let's say, mediocre pair of earbuds, you'll find that there is like a half a second to a 1 second delay between the words you're hearing and what's on the screen. And that's because the signal takes time to travel from your phone to the bud and then to your ear. Now, Razer's claim, I'll give them this, was correct. There was no audio lag when you're watching a video. I really appreciated that. I will say, though, that it's nothing too impressive, because it was already pretty good to begin with, you know, modern Bluetooth being what it is. But nonetheless, very appreciated. So I usually call this segment negatives, but honestly, I feel like that would be doing a disservice to both you guys and Razer, because the Hammerheads aren't actually bad in any way. Their shortcomings are purposeful. They're a symptom of their price. Razer wanted to undercut, you know, the more flashy, you know, AirPods and Galaxy Buds of the world. So there are compromises to be made to get them to that lower price, while also wanting to give a feature that stands out, like the drivers they tuned. I feel like I'm gonna beat a dead horse, but there is no wireless charging. Again, might not be a big deal for you, but it is for me, because I love wireless charging. They do get brownie points for using USB Type-C, which, yes, this is the move. There is no app where you can, you know, tune these to your specific liking. Now I know a lot of people don't like the idea of an app because they think it's too gimmicky. If you don't have like a feature like noise canceling, then there's no point. But if you have something like an equalizer for the earbuds themselves, instead of relying on like a third-party equalizer to specifically tune these, I feel is a very big improvement to any earbud. Just having a companion app customize the sound that you're listening to. This is not a rule, but it goes a long way to making it broader for what I feel could be anybody's sound tastes. You know, you may like a lot of bass. I prefer heavy mids. But honestly, that's it. Those are the only two, you know, nitpicks that I personally think are across the board negative, because Razer did such a good job with these that they don't... I'm not going to go as far to say that they're perfect. I just, you know, gave reasons why they're not. But I would say that they're the least hard to justify buying, because they offer so much in terms of what's important. You almost don't care about the other stuff because it doesn't matter, because they're not shaking you down for like $150, $200. So as great as I said they are, and they are, and as great as they might be for you, I personally, and again, I have to stress this enough, this is my specific use case, not a rule and definitely not a negative, but it is a concern that I think if many of you are in my position will share, and it'll be a big reason why you don't buy these. But if you're already in this position, you might not have bought things like AirPods, for example, right? I know I keep mentioning the AirPods, but they are like that similar in design and how they approach delivering sound to you. So my commutes are, shall we say, loud. Obnoxiously and irritatingly loud, but loud. And I need a very strong seal or noise canceling or something to typically enjoy listening to the music and block all of those things out. It's for this reason that the Hammerheads don't work for me, because of their design. This whole open back, you know, thing, and yes, they include that little silicone tip, but it doesn't go, the tip doesn't actually go in your ear. It's just kind of used as a grip to hold it in your ear, which again, is pretty cool, but it doesn't address the main flaw for these when it comes to my specific circumstances, which is that I can't hear the music. I can only hear the noise. The first time I took these on the train with me, I could not make a sound the second the train started moving. I usually never do this as a rule because I don't want to damage my hearing, but I had to crank these all the way to the max and I could just barely make it out, and everything else just seemed to not be going away, and it was so noisy and so distracting that I couldn't even enjoy the sound that these were producing, because they sounded, from what little detail I can make, they sounded pretty good. And that is the reason that I don't continue to use them, because they're not good for me in my situation. But as I'm sure you've probably seen if you live in a major city, there's always a lot of people in buses, trains, etc. that wear AirPods and that have no problem. And if you're one of those people that AirPods and the open back thing isn't gonna bother you when you're on heavy public transportation, or if you're in a densely populated place, then by all means, these are a major go, as Flossie would say. Because for the price, and if you don't like in-ears, these are literally second to none. I don't think there's any other wireless earbud of this quality, of this sound, and of this design that has all of the merits of the Razer Hammerheads. And I think anybody would be genuinely happy to have these if they don't mind a open back, I can hear everything around me circumstance. Hell, you might even prefer that because you might want to hear your surroundings if you're biking or something. I wouldn't recommend these for working out though. Not that I use them for working out, but mostly just off of they're not good for erratic movement. They're good for staying / nice steady movement like walking. So that's gonna be it for this video. Please let me know what you thought. If you're gonna go out and buy a pair, please come back here, watch the whole video to its entirety, and after you're done watching the entire video to its entirety, liking and subscribing, which I'm expecting you to do, then feel free to come down there and tell me about how it was for you. Did you like them? Did you like this review? Thanks for watching. Later. Happy New Year.